The forest near Bastogne was too quiet. December 19th, 1944. Snow fell in slow, heavy flakes, muffling the sound the way thick cloth muffles a scream. German reconnaissance troops moved carefully between frozen trees, boots sinking into powder that swallowed every footstep. They expected thin American lines, tired men, broken units, easy prey. Instead, one scout stopped. He raised his hand. Silence. Far down a narrow road, dark shapes moved through the snow, trucks, tanks, columns of men. Not scattered. Organized. Too many. The scout whispered, his breath fogging the air. Das kann nix sein. Soll nach dem Süden sein. That can't be. He's supposed to still be in the south. They watched in disbelief. The markings were clear. American Third Army. Their radio operator whispered urgently into microphone. Large armored elements identified. Markings suggest Third Army. Static burst through the speaker. Then nothing. The message never reached headquarters. And somewhere in the dark, snow-covered roads of France, the footsteps of an army kept moving faster than the enemy believed possible. The question that still echoes through history is simple. How did General George S. Patton move an entire army before the enemy believed it could even start? And what decision made that impossible movement real? By mid-December 1944, the war in Europe was supposed to be nearing its end. Allied forces had liberated Paris in August. They had crossed France at astonishing speed. Germany was bleeding on every front. But Adolf Hitler refused to accept defeat. On December 16, 1944, he launched a desperate gamble, the Ardennes Offensive. His plan was bold and reckless. Drive through the thinly held Ardennes forest, split the Allied armies, capture the vital port of Antwerp, and force the Western Allies to negotiate. Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt, tasked with helping execute the plan, privately doubted it could work. But orders were orders. The Germans counted on surprise and on slow Allied reaction. Their intelligence said one thing clearly. General George S. Patton and his U.S. Third Army were far to the south, fighting in the Saar region. Mud, resistance, and poor roads would keep them there. German planners believed Patton would need at least 2 full weeks to shift north. That time was everything. At the center of the German plan stood a small Belgian town, Bastogne. Bastogne was not large. It was not famous, but 7 major roads crossed there. Whoever controlled Bastogne controlled movement across the Ardennes. If the Germans could take it quickly, their supply lines would stay open. By December 20th, Bastogne was surrounded. American paratroopers of the 101st Airborne and scattered armored units were trapped inside. In Verdun, on December 18th, Supreme Allied Commander Dwight D. Eisenhower gathered his generals. The room was heavy with bad news. Yet Eisenhower said calmly, "The present situation is to be regarded as one of opportunity for us and not disaster." He needed someone to strike back. The Germans believed they had time. They were listening for slow footsteps. They never imagined how fast they were about to come. At that Verdun meeting, Eisenhower asked a simple question. Who can attack? Most commanders hesitated. Their forces were scattered, tired, and unprepared for a winter offensive. Then Patton spoke. The Third Army can attack within 48 hours. The room went silent. General Omar Bradley stared at him. Others shook their heads. 48 hours was not ambitious. It was absurd. But Patton wasn't guessing. Weeks earlier, he had told his staff to secretly plan for a sudden turn north if the Germans attacked. While others focused only forward, Patton prepared to pivot sideways. He later said, "Gentlemen, this is the greatest opportunity of your lives." Orders exploded across his headquarters. Entire divisions had to turn 90 degrees, like a ship changing course in a storm. Tanks rolled at night without headlights. Trucks froze on the roads. Men pushed vehicles through snow with numb hands. Some slept in ditches. Others didn't sleep at all. A driver later recalled, "We drove until we forgot what day it was. All we knew was snow, engines, and orders." This was leadership by motion. If Patton slowed, the army slowed. So he drove among them, cursing, encouraging, demanding. Meanwhile, German scouts near Bastogne, noticed something wrong. Each day, traffic from the south increased. Too steady, too organized. One patrol reported, movement increasing from south. This does not fit enemy timetable. But headquarters believed their maps, not nervous scouts. Snow kept falling. Roads vanished. And still, the footsteps came quiet, relentless, too early. Patton was gambling everything on speed. The Germans were betting everything on delay. Only one of them could be right. By December 20th, Bastogne was completely surrounded. German Commander Heinrich von Luttwitz sent a message demanding surrender. Inside the town, American officers debated the reply. Acting Commander General Anthony McAuliffe finally said, "Nuts." That single word became the official response. While Bastogne held on, Patton drove his army through blizzards. Vehicles slid off roads. Artillery froze. Men wrapped rags around boots because they had no winter gear. Patton knew weather could kill his plan, so he did something unusual. On December 23rd, he ordered a prayer written and read to every soldier. Almighty and most merciful Father, restrain these immoderate rains. That night, the clouds broke. Snow stopped. Skies cleared. Allied aircraft returned. On the same day, German scouts made their discovery. Near a frozen road south of Bastogne, they saw tanks pushing forward, American tanks, not scattered patrols. Led elements of a full armored force. One scout whispered again, "He's not supposed to be there yet." They radioed urgently. 3rd Army element confirmed. Led tanks already. Artillery exploded nearby. Static swallowed the signal. The transmission ended in silence. The German command would never receive the full report. On December 26, 1944, Patton's 4th Armored Division broke through to Bastogne. Inside the town, defenders heard distant gunfire. At first, they thought it was German artillery. Then someone shouted, "Tanks, those are ours." An American tank rolled through the snow, its star visible under mud and ice. Soldiers cried. Some laughed. Some just stood, unable to speak. A paratrooper later said, "We didn't hear an army. We heard hope." Patton arrived days later, walking through the snow, smiling fiercely. The footsteps the Germans feared had arrived, not as shadows, but as salvation. The German offensive never recovered. By early January 1945, Hitler's last great gamble was bleeding to death in the snow. German generals admitted they had been shocked by the speed of the American response. Field Marshal von Rundstedt reportedly called it unthinkably fast. Bastogne became legend not because it fell, but because it didn't. American soldiers spoke of Patton with awe. One tank commander said, "When he showed up, we knew the war had just changed direction." Casualties were heavy. Thousands died in frozen forests on both sides. But Germany lost what it could not replace: time, fuel, and belief. The roads that had once echoed with hurried German columns now carried retreat. And in the quiet after battle, snow covered everything again, wrecked tanks, broken guns, and the countless footprints of men who had marched through history. The forest became silent once more. But silence does not mean nothing happened. It means something finished. Patton's decision at Verdun became a lesson taught to soldiers long after the war. It proved that leadership is not only about strength, it is about preparation for what others refuse to imagine. The Germans trusted schedules. Patton trusted people. They believed distance would protect them. He believed speed could destroy that protection. Somewhere, an unknown German scout saw the future arriving too early and tried to warn his commanders. His name is lost. His message never arrived. But his words, "He's not supposed to be there yet," became the sound of a plan breaking. In the end, history often changes not with loud speeches or grand ceremonies, but with footsteps in snow arriving before anyone believes they can.